name's Matthew Teller. I'm a journalist and a travel writer, and I'm also the author of The Rough Guide to Jordan. Jordan is an amazingly diverse country. That's the thing that makes it really special. There's a diversity, first of all, of landscapes. So in a single day, you could be moving from a mountaintop to a beach, or from a forest down to the desert valley floor. And in addition, there's a diversity of cultures as well. This is a country which is rooted in its past, in its biblical and historical classical past, but is also a very modern place. Amman, in particular, the capital city, is a very lively, dynamic, bustling, modern city. Jordan is very small. It's an easy place to move around in. Any car journey or bus journey that you might be doing is likely to be only about a couple of hours or so. So you're spending your time on the ground experiencing the country for yourself. And most of all, the people are particularly hospitable. That's what marks Jordan out as being very, very special. There's a tradition of hospitality within the culture, which means that you'll be experiencing the warm-heartedness of the Jordanians as you move around the country for yourself. So let me tell you just a couple of things about what makes Jordan in particular to be very, very special. The place that draws people to Jordan is Petra. Petra is an ancient city. It's a city founded 2,000 years ago by a people called the Nabateans, who are a tribe of Arabian nomads who drifted north and settled in this hidden valley between two barrier ranges of peaks. And they came to grow wealthy on the caravan trade in frankincense. Frankincense is a resin from a tree that only grows in South Arabia. And this resin was used in religious ritual all over the Mediterranean world in the Greek and Roman times. And so every bit of frankincense that was used came from Arabia through Petra. And the Nabateans grew wealthy on the trade. They taxed and they controlled caravans, and their city came to grow to be 30,000 people strong. What you have there is a site which is so big that most of the time people who visit don't really understand just how big it is. They don't get the sense that it's a city. But if you visit early in the morning, if you're walking into Petra at 5 or 6 in the morning, that's the time when you get a sense of the magic of the place, when it stops being just a tourist attraction and it starts to have a connection to history, to the feeling and the stories of the past. That's the time when you get an idea of how people are coming in and they're setting up, and you're getting a sense of a city moving again. And these are stories which connect us directly to the Nabateans themselves. When you're walking around among the tombs and the temples and the churches and the theatres of Petra, you're getting a sense of understanding how the city fitted together. What we have now has been mostly tumbled by earthquakes. There have been a series of earthquakes over the centuries which have knocked much of what Petra was built of down. What we have left are these amazing facades. These facades which you see, the treasury and the monastery, these were carved out of the sandstone cliffs. This is a kind of reverse architecture. You're not taking stones and putting stones on top of each other. You're taking a cliff and you're scooping stone away to make a building, and particularly to make a tomb. So Petra is a site which encompasses a sweep of history, from classical times, Greek and Roman times, through to Byzantine times, through to the Islamic times. This is a large city, it's a large site which needs more than just a single day. The best way to see it is really to devote 3 days, or if you can, even 4 days, to touring Petra. Most people will only see the sites on and off the main path, just coming down from the entrance all the way down through the city. But if you can just step just a little way to each side, if you step 50 meters off to left or right, you'll be discovering hidden corners in the rocks and the mountains of Petra, which most people wouldn't even get a chance to see. All you have to do is just to move away a little bit and you'll be away from the crowds, you'll be by yourself, you'll be out in the natural environment, the beauty of the mountains of Petra, and you'll be experiencing that connection with history in a much more tangible way. Jordan was also the very eastern limit of the Roman Empire, and the Emperor Hadrian came visiting as well, and he stayed at the most prominent Roman site which survives in Jordan today, Jerash, which is a Roman city just north of Amman, which encompasses a hippodrome, theatres, a temple to Zeus and a temple to Artemis spread along this amazing colonnaded street. And Jerash was tied in to a network of cities around that region called the Decapolis. There were originally 10 cities. Another one in the north of Jordan is Qais, which looks over the Sea of Galilee. But this historical preservation of sites also continues through to the Crusader period. Jordan was a focus for Crusader energy in the Middle East during the 11th and the 12th centuries. And there were 3 castles up and down Jordan which survived from that period. The Crusader headquarters at Shorbak, the amazing fortified town of Karak on top of its mountain hill, and also in the north, Ajloun Castle, which was from the Crusader period, but which was never conquered and never occupied by the Crusaders themselves, which was always part of Saladin's resistance to the Crusader invasion. The Jordanian capital, Amman, is an amazingly diverse city of about 2 million people, originally spread over 7 hills, now maybe 19 or maybe 20 or more hills. What you have there is a city that's, first of all, is very young. As you move around, you'll see that the population is very young. It's a very vibrant place. It's not easy sometimes for outsiders to penetrate, but once you do, you discover a city of art galleries, of culture, of street food, working your way through the downtown area, the old historic part of Amman, going from a falafel stand to a shawarma stand. These are different kinds of street food, to a place selling kanafa, the most beautiful and most delicious sweet Arabic pastry you could possibly imagine. And then moving also up to the ancient sites. Amman has a very long past going back into the biblical era. So up on Citadel Hill, you'll find originally Roman and Byzantine ruins overlaid by an early Islamic palace, looking down onto a well-preserved 6,000-seat Roman theatre. This is an incredibly diverse city, which encompasses also a substantial Christian minority. And you'll feel that most of all in wine. Jordan is a very unusual place to taste and experience some incredible wine. And what you'll find is there are particularly 1 or 2 boutique wine producers who have vineyards around Amman and also wine shops in Amman, so you can be tasting and sampling local produce, not just in food, and not just in what you might expect, but in what you don't expect. One area where Jordan's tourism is really growing is spas and wellness. And this is focused in the area of the Dead Sea, which is 400 meters below sea level. It's not very far out of Amman. It's about an hour's drive west of Amman. As you leave the city and you come down and down and down, what you find is not a sea, but a lake. This is a lake where the water is about 10 times saltier than seawater. And because of the concentrations of salts and minerals, there's bromine, there's calcium, there's magnesium in the water, this has become one of the world's largest natural open-air spas. So along the shores of the Dead Sea, there's lots of spa complexes which take advantage of not only the water, but also the fact that the air down here is much more highly oxygenated than usual because of the heavier atmospheric pressure and various other conditions as well. And what you find also in the canyons near the Dead Sea, there's also thermal waterfalls pouring down off the cliffs. So there's mineral water coming out of the ground at thermal temperatures, which means there's more spa complexes. There's various different ways which you can visit Jordan to experience these different spa atmospheres. And in addition as well, another growing area in the sort of wellness activities is also meditation and yoga. And all of these come together to form a way to experience Jordan's natural environment where you don't have to be interested in history and you don't have to be a culture person in order to try and get the most out of Jordan. What you can do is you can come and you can experience the natural environment in this spa and wellness context. Jordan is the Holy Land. Jordan is where Moses walked. Jordan is where Jesus walked, and Jordan is even where the Prophet Muhammad walked as well. Jordan is where the Lord rained down fire and brimstone onto the heads of the sinners of Sodom and Gomorrah. Jordan is also where Moses led the children of Israel to Mount Nebo, which is a site above the Dead Sea where Moses first caught sight of the Holy Land, and also where Moses died. And then down below Mount Nebo, on the River Jordan, Jordan is also where John the Baptist baptized Jesus Christ, at a site which is now today visited by churchgoers and pilgrims from around the world. And John the Baptist also met his end in Jordan at a site called Machaerus, where Salome danced the dance of the 7 veils, and where John the Baptist was beheaded and his head presented on a platter to King Herod. Jordan's biblical past is resonant throughout the country, even today. So Jordan's varieties of natural environments, with the mountains and the desert and the forest and the Dead Sea, they all come together and they all culminate in the beach. So down in the south of Jordan, as well as everything else, you've got an amazing beach resort on the Red Sea. And this is Aqaba. Aqaba is a very old town as well. Down on the beach there's a fort in amongst the palm groves which are lining the sand. But what it's known for now is as a beach destination. What's special about Aqaba is that the coral reefs of the Red Sea start just in the shallow, so you can be even just 1 or 2 meters offshore and the coral reefs will begin, and this amazing tropical fish and the stunning variety of corals. And the way to experience it is by snorkeling. Snorkeling is very easy to do. Anyone can snorkel. I can snorkel. If I can, anyone can. And this is a way to do it where you're coming in either from jetties off the beach or you're coming from a boat trip and you're experiencing the amazing underwater world. And in addition, what Aqaba has is its proximity to Jordan's other destinations. So within a day trip, you've got 2 of the most amazing excursions anywhere in the world. One side is Petra, and the other side is Wadi Rum, the desert of Lawrence of Arabia. This is an amazing destination, and it's a place you could come back to again and again. So Jordan's flagship nature reserve is a place called Dana, which is about an hour north of Petra. And what happens there is there's a swathe of terrain reaching from perhaps 1,500 meters above sea level, reaching down to below sea level in this big valley, which is the Wadi Dana, the Dana Valley. At the top is Dana, at the bottom is Fainan. Now when you're up at Dana, this is a fantastic place for walking and trekking in particular. There's a walk which I remember I did once from Dana, where you're coming around the head of the valley, past springs of water which are coming out of the mountainside, on a route of about 2 or 3 hours around to a place called Rumana. And at Rumana there's a campsite, and I remember we stayed there. It's one of the most memorable nights I've had in Jordan. It's so quiet and it's so peaceful. You're way away from civilization. And there are ibex that come visiting in the morning hours, the very early morning hours, just around dawn. And the sunsets that you see over the mountains from there, because you're right on the edge of the plateau looking out over the desert. It's quite exceptional. And from Dana, you can take a walk also all the way down the valley, all the way down from the mountains down to below sea level in the desert, all the way down the Wadi Dana down to Fainan. And down at Fainan, there's an eco-lodge, a wilderness eco-lodge. Again, you're miles off the road here. And this is a very special place, very quiet. It's almost monastic. It's off the electricity grid, so it's only lit by candles at night. And you can go stargazing from the roof. You can also meet the Bedouin who live locally in the communities around the eco-lodge as well. They'll maybe invite you in for coffee. You can watch the women baking bread over the fire in the traditional way. It's an exceptional way to understand Jordan and to get closer to Jordan and to get closer particularly to the people of Jordan. Some places can change you, and quite often you'll find the wilderness will change you. And in Jordan, the wilderness is the desert. Now, if you're in the desert, in the daytime hours, if that's all you see between 10 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not doing it right. My favorite times in the desert are between 4 in the afternoon and 10 in the morning. If you can be in the desert, especially for sunset, that time when the sun goes down after the heat of the day, if you can be there to experience it's the solitude, it's almost the spirituality of that vast landscape, a landscape almost too big to take in one glance. You have to find yourself doing panoramic views around to understand where you are. If you can be there for that time, if you can be there for the twilight and for when the stars come out, if you can be there overnight, if you can stay out in the desert, you can feel the temperature changes, and then you can be there for dawn. Dawn is such a special time. Dawn is the time when the desert comes back to life. And that sunrise, when you see the sun coming up over the mountains for the first time in the morning, and when those colours change from being the grey of that dawn light to being the bright oranges and the fiery reds of the morning, that is something that will live with you. And then you can leave and you can go back to where you come from, wherever your home may happen to be, but you'll have a little piece of the desert inside you still. And so many of Jordan's stories from the desert are wrapped up in this place called Wadi Rum, which is down in the south, about 300 kilometers south of Amman, down towards the Saudi border. And this is an area of desert where Lawrence of Arabia was active in the First World War, where he fought those battles in order to try and liberate the Arabian territory. And also where the movie of Lawrence of Arabia was filmed. David Lean took his film crew to Jordan in the 60s to film there with Peter O'Toole and with Omar Sharif. And it's possible still to go back there to exactly the same place. And this is where you come closest to understanding and to feeling the Bedouin culture, which is not just in Jordan, but extends all the way across Arabia and is at the heart of what makes Arab identity so resonant and so evocative. And as always, the best way to experience Jordan's environment is to walk it. So what you can do up and down Jordan is to embark on one of these high adrenaline walking and trekking adventure excursions. And you can do that whether you're an experienced walker and trekker or whether you're a newcomer. So there are walks such as the Al Ayoun Trail in the north of Jordan, in amongst the forests and the highland groves of oak and pistachio up near Ajloun. And this is a short walk of 12 kilometers or so. It's an easy day walk. You can break it at different points. You can stop and have lunch with the family or a picnic in a field, whatever you like. And there's walks going up from that as well. So down in the south, between Dana and Petra, there's an amazing walk which could be 3 days would be rushing it. It would be 4 days or maybe 5 days, walking completely away from any sort of civilization out in the wilderness. So you're walking among mountains and valleys and rocks and cliffs, and you can either be doing that supported, so you have guides at each point and you have camps set up for you at each overnight stop, or you can do it unsupported and you can do it yourself. And in addition, what Jordan is developing only just now, maybe in the last year or two, a long distance trail. So there's now a Jordanian National Trail which runs right from the northern borders right down to the south. And this is a walk, if you were to do the whole thing, it would take, we don't actually know yet because it's still being developed, but it would be perhaps 3 weeks or 4 weeks of consistent walking, and interspersed with canyoning and trekking in different sort of environments in the desert and in the mountains and in the forest as well. But what you can do is you can take individual day stages all the way down the country of this long trail which is being developed. It's a beautiful way to experience Jordan's natural environment. For holidays to Jordan, there are 3 ways to go. You could join a small group being guided around the sites and staying in different locations around the country. You could plump for a beach break or a spa getaway and opt for day trips to see the sights. But perhaps the best way is to go for a tailor-made private tour which lets you set the itinerary and allows you to explore as much of the history, the nature or the beach as you like at your own pace. Accommodation in Jordan covers the full range from friendly countryside lodges and family guest houses all the way up to 5-star luxury hotels and spa resorts. You'll find them all in the Mosaic brochure and on their website. This April, I'm delighted to announce that I'll be leading a very special guided tour to Jordan with Mosaic Holidays as we get off the beaten track and explore under the skin of this amazing country. Do join us. Well, that's just a tiny corner of what Jordan has to offer. I hope it's given you some insight into this beautiful country that I've been lucky enough to have the chance to explore in my life. I love the place, and I'm sure you will too.